What's going on? Welcome back. Hour number 2. Had a fun first hour. Bob Behler in for Mike Prater on Prater in the Ballgame, Idaho Sports Talk. Chandler Hutchison, ex-Boise State Bronco, joined us last hour. Justinian Jessup will join us tomorrow at 3:15. Good stuff, Bob. And a lot of people chiming in there on the old Ask Bob Behler mailbag. Man, that's something we got to do once a month or something.
Good questions. Good
Yeah, hey,
questions.
they had them. Yeah, there are good questions there. Let's get back to the big story of the day. And this was originally tweeted by John Wilner, college football analyst, radio guy, personality, earlier saying USC and UCLA are going to leave the Pac-12. They're going to go to the Big Ten, and they are going to create a whole new monstrosity of college football at the top, Bob. And we want to continue this and ask our callers at 208-424-9300. Good for college football, bad for college football. Where's the Boise State angle in this? We'll take those calls. Give us a call if you want to get in on this. Bob, anything else that you had that you wanted to get to regarding the move and what it does for the landscape of college football? And if you had a crystal ball, if you will, where you think this is taking?
Well, my first thing is don't make any alliances with anybody, because the Big 12 basically had Oklahoma and Texas pulled out from underneath them, and the SEC came in and took them away, and then the alliance was supposed to be a working agreement between the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the ACC. Well, what league is taking some from another league? The Big 12. The Big 10 is taking somebody from the Pac-12. So I guess everybody's looking out for number one at the expense of everybody else. I think that if those two move, I don't think we're going to see the end of it. I think the SEC will expand again, and I think the Big Ten. I don't think that USC and UCLA are the only teams that are on their list. I wouldn't be surprised if, when the dust settles eventually, that we got a couple of big conferences. I don't want to see it. I don't like seeing it. I think it'll probably be bad for college football overall, but I have a bad feeling that maybe that's where it's headed.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to look at college football through an entirely different type of lens for our glasses, Bob. It's just going to look different. The money these kids that go to these high level leagues and programs are going to get paid big time amounts of cash, and good for them if someone's going to offer to pay them to go to school and play football and get what you can when you can get it. I'm not necessarily knocking USC and UCLA on this move. I wish they weren't. Can I even call them greedy? I wish they weren't as interested in the advancement of their financial situations for their programs, but obviously they are. And that's the biggest reason that Rutgers and UCLA is going to be a league game now on opposite ends of the coasts. But it's because of money, and the Pac-12 has not put itself in a position, Bob, to be able to pay out the way the Big Ten has. They've failed in that respect. There's probably a lot of reasons why, but they screwed up on this one, for lack of a better term. The Pac-12 did. So I feel bad for the Washingtons and the Oregons and the other teams in this league saying, like, wait, you guys are leaving now? Now what is going to happen? Because honestly, Bob, if I'm the Big Ten, I'm not stopping here. Now I want Oregon and Washington. I want the Portland market and I want the Seattle market. And then that leaves OSU, Oregon State, and Wazoo, the Bay Area schools. I mean, what do they do? Does Oregon State and Washington State, are they going to join the Mountain West? Is that the trickle-down effect? Does the Pac-12 just dissolve? Does it go away? Oh, my God, dude.
I think that's the biggest question. If you looked at what was going to happen when Oklahoma and Texas decided to go to the SEC, a lot of people thought that the Big 12 was basically going to just implode, and Kansas and somebody were going to go to the Big 10, and these people were going to go to the Pac-12 and such. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what the rest of the Pac-12 does. Do they try to find, on first blush, my first reaction was, boy, maybe Boise State and San Diego State would look like it wouldn't be as strong a league nationally as USC and UCLA, but it would certainly enhance both Boise State and San Diego State's reputation if they got in there. But Now the question is, if let's say they don't stop with USC and UCLA and Oregon, Washington, or if the Big 12 comes poaching for the Arizona schools or wants to get Colorado back, all of a sudden you could have a feeding frenzy on teams in the Pac-12.
Yeah, the next rumor is that the Big 12 is going to now try to get both Arizonas and Colorado and Utah. That would leave the Pac-10 down to 6 teams. It'd be the 4 Northwest schools and the 2 Bay Area schools. And if that's the case, then my gosh, I don't know what the Pac-12 does, raid the Mountain West or just dissolve the league and those schools go into the Mountain West. Or if you're Washington or Oregon or big level schools, maybe Stanford, you beg the Big 10 to take you too. And it sucks. This is a hostile corporate takeover. This happens in life, in business, and now it has happened in college football, and the damn sport is going to look entirely different. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. We wanted to know your thought on this. Yay, nay, you upset, you don't care. Where's Boise State's involvement in all this, if any? We want to take your calls on the Fat Guys Fresh Deli hotline. So, Tom, welcome to Idaho Sports Talk. You're up first today. Tom, what do you have for us?
Well, I think the Pac-12 only has to look themselves in the mirror for someone to blame. They're as poorly a run conference as there is. The fact that they could never execute the Pac-12 network with 3 major markets, Los Angeles, Phoenix, San Francisco, and Seattle in there, and even to some degree Portland.
And Salt Lake.
And Salt Lake.
What about Denver?
They had they had major markets up and down the wazoo. They could never execute a Pac-12 network. They were as poorly a run conference as there is, and I guess we're surprised they're leaving, but we're surprised, but we're not. The other thing is this: if I'm Oregon with $108 million athletic budget, why am I even thinking about regional schools like Boise State, San Diego State, and is this my chance to get rid of Washington State, who I've probably had to carry financially with their contribution to my conference? I think the Big 12, absorbing the Arizona schools and the Utah and Colorado, and that makes sense. And I think Oregon doesn't have to beg anybody. Oregon and UW.
Yep.
Because, again, $100 million athletic budgets, they're the pretty girls at the dance.
Yes, they are.
Someone's geographically little tough, especially when it comes to basketball and Olympic sports. But if I'm those schools, I honestly said, wait a minute. The best alternative I have, no disrespect, Bob, and I'm a fan, but is Boise State, who really has been trying for 5 years to get their stadium improved and can't do it because they don't have the money. No donor base, very little donor base, limited donor base, I should say, again, with respect to the people who support it.
Yep.
And a limited financial community, TV market size 98. I mean, what is, besides the name in football and maybe some potential in basketball, what does Boise State lend to being in a conference with Oregon, to some degree Oregon State, UW? I mean, if I'm Washington State, I'm worried because I'm going to take a huge pay cut when the Pac-12 event, because the Big 12 they don't want Washington State.
They're not going to want Pullman. Thank you for the call, Tom. That was awesome. They're not going to want Pullman. They're not going to want Corvallis. No. And there's blood in the water. And that's when you see the USC and the UCLA bolt this morning, possibly. Now you see the blood in the water where the Big 12 now getting this. Whoa. If this is happening, let's get Utah. Let's get Colorado. Let's get the 2 Arizonas. Here we go. We're missing Texas and Oklahoma a lot less in a few years than we thought we would. Plus, with the additions they have from the AAC. Shane, you're next up on the Fat Guys Fresh Deli hotline. Shane, what you got?
Boy, Ballgame, money really, truly is the root of all evil.
I know, man. I know, dude.
I'll tell you, the only thing, honestly, at this point, I'm going to concern myself with is what does this mean for Boise State? Number one for me is conference schedule, or not necessarily conference, but just schedule of games. Seeing some better, bigger matchups on the blue and even on the road. I hate seeing schools like Eastern Washington and the nonsense that came out yesterday. Rice, all that. I hate seeing that kind of stuff. I miss the days of seeing Georgia and Virginia Tech and Oregon and some of those teams like that on a regular basis. I'd sure love to see a couple of those games every single year. So that's priority number one for me on all this. I really hate the fact that there's going to be no more conference pride. I mean, for those of us that never really got a chance to taste, college sports, D1 sports, we're back into our high school glory days. Man, there's nothing like winning a conference championship, and all that trickled down from college. The Big Ten versus the Pac-12 in the bowl games and all those things, conference championships meant something. They're not going to mean squat anymore.
No.
And for me, that's going to be a bummer. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to get up on Saturday. I'm still going to turn my TV on, and I'm still going to see School A playing School B in smash mouth football, and I'm going to love it because it's this big school versus that big school. It's the same. Football is football is football is football. Money is what's going to screw the whole thing up as far as the peripheral stuff that we all enjoy, the conference championships, and that kind of thing.
Thanks, Shane. Great stuff. We're just going to take those two calls. Sorry if you're still holding. Tom and Shane, way to bring the house down. Those are what we want on Idaho Sports Talk. Those are good calls. I appreciate it. Bob, what's your thoughts on anything going on around here? Let me give you the mic.
Well, I think that a lot is going to depend on what some of the other schools that are the more haves that are left in the Pac-12 decide they want to do. Do they want to then try to replenish their membership? And, you mentioned Oregon and Washington. If they're given a chance to take the same, bite out of the apple as USC and UCLA, they're probably going to take it. But they may not be invited. My next invite, if I'm sitting there in the Big Ten, is going to be Notre Dame.
No question.
And then after that, then you kind of move your way down. Do you want some more teams in the West Coast? Do you want to stop there? Kind of thing. So I think that's why this thing just seems like it never, the merry-go-round doesn't stop. Every time you think you're through with somebody changing conferences, something pops up, and it's like whack-a-mole. It just keeps popping up and going.
It's sad for me. I get it, and I understand it, but, man, it's a buzzkill. It's a bummer. Dang, man, I'm going to long for the day of college football how I had it the first half of my life. The next half of my life, college football is just kind of a step down from the NFL. It's essentially just a lower-level professional league, at least at the top, and that's what they're trying to do. The haves are saying, have-nots, make like a tree and get out of here. This is what I think, Bob, real quick. This hurts Boise State. It does. Because the Big 12 now has its eyes on the two Arizonas and Colorado and Utah. They don't want Boise State anymore because they see, Stacy's available. Okay? So they're going to try to hook up with them before Boise. Now, if that happens, and the Pac-12 somehow, George Kliavkoff says, okay, he tries to sell it, we're still going to have a league. And we're going to have the 4 Northwest schools, the 2 Bay Area schools, that's 6. And then we're going to say, okay, Boise State, B7, San Diego State, B8, UNLV. We need some type of glitz and glamour in this league. The headquarters of the Pac-12 are moving to Vegas. UNLV, you be number 9. And then I don't know what the hell else you do to get some type of team to go back to the Pac-10. And you add 4 more teams. And then, is that a better situation for Boise State? I will still say yes, because that is a better league than the current landscape of the Mountain West. So in that case, okay, maybe that's Boise State's new pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, hoping they keep this lower, cheesy, greasy, nasty, grimy Pac-12 in some type of contention and breathing and running. And then they add teams like Boise State and San Diego State. Okay, but that's not going to give me much nad pumpage, but maybe it's the best thing for Boise State. But right now, as far as the Big 12, nah, man, Big 12 is going to try to get bigger schools than Boise State, if you ask me.
They are, and maybe some will poach them. Maybe the Pac-12 tries to go out and get Oklahoma State or a couple of others to kind of come the other way.
I think the Pac-12 should say, okay, let's focus more on basketball. I know that is not what you do with football TV money, but if you could get Baylor, K-State, and Kansas, say, and or a TCU away from the Big 12 and get them to go to the new Pac-12. I don't know why they would do that though. I think those teams would rather have this new Big 12 than leave and being part of a new Pac-12. But that's teams I could look at, and then you could sell basketball. But and Baylor and TCU will help you for football. Kansas and K-State will help you for basketball. But I don't know. This is going to be weird, and we'll see how Boise State fits in, huh?
I think we'll know a lot more if the USC UCLA becomes official, and then what the Pac-12's response to that's going to be. But I think if the Pac-12 stayed with the 10 that were left, I think that would be a very nice league for Boise State to be in. If the two Washington State, if the two Oregon State,
if those 6 stay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Well, this is we're going to go from kind of a gloomy segment to a fun. This is the segment I've been waiting to do for like weeks, guys. Since I heard about TBT, the Boise State once a Bronco team on the basketball tournament, I thought, what if they had a TFT, the football tournament? It's a 7-on-7 football tournament. No NFL players with experience are allowed, and it is a once a Bronco flag football 7-on-7 team. What players would you make right now that are going to play on this team? We are the general managers. We are picking this team next. Who would you want to see on it? Text that to us. We'll read those when we come back.
Traffic collision in Caldwell, East Homedale Road and South 10th Avenue. Out